and welcome to Bags of Action. My name is Steve. My co-host is Pete.
Hello.
This episode, we're joined by a special guest. It's Barry from Geek Syndicate.
Hey-o.
Hello, Barry.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So, this evening, we are talking about Die Hard 4 or 4.0, if you prefer.
Also known as Live Free or Die Hard.
Okay, from 2007. Yes. I've got to be honest, when we first started on this journey that is the Die Hard saga, I was convinced that this one, I was going to remember it I remembered it pretty poorly and thought this was going to be an absolute bag of brown stuff. And it wasn't nearly as bad as I remembered. So I was thinking something must have colored my judgment of how the first time I saw it. What about you?
Yeah, I think because it's 12 years gap from the one before this. That's a long time in any franchise, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I thought I was going to remember it really well. I remembered one scene, which was him taking a guy in and getting into the back of a van to talk to some people. And literally everything else, I don't know if I've had my mind wiped or I'm just getting old, but I didn't remember anything else about this film at all. So it was like watching it for the first time again, even though I have seen it before.
I remembered it quite well. I think it's because I remember it first time around being really annoyed, because I always get really annoyed when it's anything to do with IT because I work in IT. Yeah, and I just I could do a whole podcast on why it just winds me the F up. It started off, I mean, we'll get into it anyway. I got to say, it started off and I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is okay, I'm enjoying it. Didn't last long for me.
Okay.
From an IT perspective?
From lots of perspectives. Just the cliches, just the IT cliches. Jesus.
So this film is actually based upon an article from a magazine or a website called A Farewell to Arms. So the previous ones have been based on books.
Yeah, all three are novels, aren't they?
Yeah, so this one's based upon an article that was basically about the end of what we'd know as traditional warfare and moving towards the idea of being digital and technological warfare being at the forefront of warfare in the future. So you wouldn't have, it would be more asymmetric warfare, which is what we've kind of had in the last 20 years. And the article was published in 1997. So it's, 10 years after that article that they made this film. But, in terms of tone, I guess it's fairly close. It's the idea of, it's not guns and bombs. It's all about data and information and capitalism. And there's no real money. It's all just kind of a fake, concept, and once you wipe it off a computer somewhere, that's it. There's no real money anymore. It's like, well, yes and no, but
I remember though, I did economics as part of my degree, and I remember being told that only 20% of money actually existed, and it blew my mind. It shouldn't have done. It's kind of obvious, really, that doesn't all physically exist. But I was just like, what if everyone goes to the cash point on the same day in the whole world? What would happen then? And they were like, it's not going to happen. I'm like, what would happen? They're like, it doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. You're not going to pass this degree if you don't show your face.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
A valid point. So I kept quiet.
All right. Fair enough.
So in terms of the people behind the camera, Len Wiseman directed this, who directed the Underworld movies that I wasn't particularly keen on, and the Total Recall remake, which I haven't seen out of principle.
No, I haven't seen that.
Spoiler, do not see it.
Okay.
Really, really, really bad. Not like, oh, it's so good, so bad, it's good. No, it's really bad. And I like Colin Farrell. So
Michael Ironside told me not to watch it, so I'm just going to go with what he said.
That is worth it. Just because he said it, like, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't want him to turn up and say, I told you not to watch that film.
You had one job.
Yeah. This would be a good.
You don't argue with Richter, so come on.
You do not. So the story was written by Mark Bombach and David Marconi. So David Marconi has written The Foreigner and Enemy of the State. So Enemy of the State in similar territory.
Yeah.
But Bombach actually wrote the screenplay, and he's written Insurgent, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War of the Planet of the Apes, The Wolverine, and also the Total Recall remake.
Okay, 50%, not too bad.
But some big movies. I think in my head, and maybe next month when we get onto the fifth one, which I haven't seen, maybe it will be a bit more like that. But in my head, it was like, it was McTiernan and Harlan, and then, this is years later, probably a lesser budget. But actually, in terms of who's involved, it's not the same old people. But obviously, a long time has passed. It's just the people that I guess were making films at this time. So
yeah.
But I think Bruce Willis is the only person back for this one.
Yes.
Cast wise, is completely new people apart from him.
It's true. It's true.
No Bonnie.
No, she's mentioned several times.
She is mentioned,
but
and his daughter is in it. But
yeah.
Did you notice who the actress was that plays his daughter?
Oh, it's I did, but I can't remember her name. Mary.
Yep.
Wine.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
That's it.
Wow.
Winstead. Yeah.
So it's her from like 10 Cloverfield Lane, Death Proof. Isn't she in the new like Birds of Prey and stuff as well?
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
I've not seen
Huntress.
it, but she's in that. I know she's in that.
Yeah, she's Huntress in it.
Yeah. So it's like, because I saw the name pop up and I'm like, really? And then I watched it. Oh, okay, there she is 10 years ago before I remember from Cloverfield Lane and stuff. Yeah. But yes, that and Kevin Smith, of course, in his bigger days when they call him Dump Truck several times.
I didn't realize he was. I didn't realize he was in it. That was something I completely blocked out of my mind. To be fair, I think the first time I watched the film, I think I blocked a lot of it out of my mind. So,
but yeah, because
sorry, God.
I was going to say, because it was on the back of this that Kevin Smith was able to kind of approach Bruce Willis and say, "Hey, Bruce, I've got this great script that I think you'd be great for. We worked together in the past. Come on, cop out." And he went, "Yeah, all right." And then it was the worst experience of Smith's life ever making a film with Bruce Willis, who apparently was just a dick from day one until they wrapped shooting. And he's like, "I'm never going to work with that guy ever again." So, but there you go. Anyway, and Maggie Q.
It's kind of very much not casting against type at all, is it? To cast Kevin Smith as a nerdy basement dwelling hacker. It's kind of like it wasn't a particularly difficult day at the office for him, I don't think, playing that part.
No, it's like, can you wear this kind of a shirt? I've got 12 of them. Oh, okay, great. Just pretend you know stuff about Star Wars. Yep, I got that down. Yep, computers. I can fake that. He's not exactly tech savvy, but.
I'd forgotten Timothy Olyphant is in this as well. So obviously from Hitman and most recently and very good in an episode of The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. Justified and
yeah.
Maggie Q looking very young in this.
Also, yeah.
Bit uncomfortable with some of the racist jokes around her this time.
Yeah.
Watching it. Go on, Laurie.
I was going to say, like, one of my overall takeaways from this film is like, so I'm a big fan of Die Hard. I remember going to see the first Die Hard at the cinema when it came out, not knowing what it was going to be about, and really, really enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean? I hadn't seen anything quite like it. Obviously we've seen many, many, many iterations of it since. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons, looking back now, about why I liked Die Hard so much was that I liked John McClane because he did feel like a regular cop. He didn't, he didn't feel like an Arnie or Rambo, anything like that. Even build-wise, he just looked like a normal guy who was just caught up in his stuff and had to kind of make do to get through. Mm. And it felt, even though there was some ridiculous stuff happening, it always felt grounded and it always felt believable. Even that bit, which is probably the two big extreme bits, was like the bit where he kind of tapes all the C4 to the chair and he throws it down the lift truck. But even that just felt realistic. He's like, "Oh fuck, what can I use? There's a chair there, right? Bung up," and he literally just bungs everything onto it, tapes it all up and just kicks it off. And then when he dives off the roof, which is that big shot they always show, but and then he goes to swing through the window and he can't get through the window. Yeah. Whereas many other films, he would have just swung straight through and you wouldn't have wouldn't have a scar on him. So I found him a really likable character. In this one, I kept telling myself, I'm supposed to be rooting for this guy. Do you know what I mean? And other than the fact that, okay, they had killed innocent people.
Yeah.
And I thought Timothy Olyphant was trying a bit too hard to to be the bad guy. You know, I've got a black shirt. You know, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah, almost twirling his moustache.
Yeah, but like, I kind of felt like I was starting to root for them a little bit because he just wasn't likable. I'm sorry, I just didn't find him likable. He was, like you said, he was, some of the lines he was, after he kind of took out Maggie Key, some of the way he was kind of talking, I was just like, really? I'm not even doing the whole kind of PC thing, just really? And like, again, going back to the first film, yeah, he dropped a couple of one-liners, but I didn't feel that he was reveling in killing off people in the same way. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, he was just dropping one-liners, and it was just, yeah, I was just like, oh, you really annoying me, man.
I know what you mean. It's weird. I think McClane as a character has been reduced in each film in a way. Like the first film is very much, like you say, it's an everyman. It's essentially a story of a guy who wants to get back with his wife. That's kind of the story, but obviously within this action premise. The second film, it kind of shifts it a little bit, but then to me, like once they get to the third film, it's like, oh yeah, I've split up with my wife and I'm an alcoholic. It's like, why? Why has that happened off camera? What? And then this one, so you get to the point where his daughter has gone. I got in the first film, his wife had gone back to using her maiden name. I just thought it was very clever that she's using her maiden name. She's gone for this new job. He hasn't gone with her. And then at the end, obviously, she uses her, goes back to McClane, and that's a beautiful
moment.
Moment. But they try and recapture that here. But it's like, why? Unless he is from what you've just said, maybe she's right. But for his daughter to have gone back to the mother's maiden name just felt really odd. And it's almost like we this guy is an arsehole, everybody. And he is a bit of an arsehole, but he's like an arsehole doing good things in the first two films. And then in the third film, you just start to think, oh, he's a little bit, maybe he is just an arsehole. And then in this, so it's like, oh God, he really is an arsehole. So I dread to think what the fifth one is going to be like. But from what you said about Kevin Smith, maybe it's just Bruce Willis just forgetting to act and just being himself. And that's because, you know, we talked about this bit in the last episode, but if any actor has gone from like, you know, Sixth Sense and 12 Monkeys and the first Die Hard to some of the most terrible kind of C movies in the last few years just to get a paycheck, post Expendables, I think after he didn't do the last Expendables because he wanted too much money. It's like,
it was like just 4 million for 4 days work or something is what they wanted, and they were just went, nah,
we'll get Harrison Ford for half that, thank you.
At least more fun despite being deadpan. That tells you something. But
it's just I know people go through waves. Like Kurt Russell was huge and then disappeared and kind of came back, and Travolta's done the same and then back and then gone and back again. And obviously, as actors get older, they quite often don't get such good parts. But it really bothers me that he's like got that much talent. And just saying that, as soon as he's in that Die Hard batteries ad for the Super Bowl, then they kind of lost a lot of my respect.
And I think like the other thing as well is like, I love a good action, obviously, because I'm here. Yeah, I mean, I love an action movie, and I love like the more over the top, the better, and I love that. But watching this one, it felt like I was watching an Avengers movie, and by that I mean like it was like I kept thinking, maybe he got Captain America's like super soldier serum when I weren't looking or something, because some of the things that happened to him, I was like, no, come on. I mean, you should be dead now.
Yeah.
You should be dead. You know, and just some of the worst decisions made by villains. And I think what sums up this whole film for me, because I watched it today, so it's still quite fresh.
Yeah.
There's a sequence where he's in a truck. And he's chasing after the bad guys and all the rest of it. And Timothy Olyphant, they call in like the jet fighter.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, take him out. And I'm like, so I'm trying to put now. Obviously, I'm not in the military, but I'm trying to put myself in the mind of the pilot. And someone's come over the radio and said, yeah, this is a hostile target. You're engaged to kind of take him out. Now, if this had been in like the UK, this is why I'm trying to use the UK. And effectively, that truck's driving down the M1, and I'm getting a call through. He's like, "Yeah, take the truck out." Yeah. I might want to go. Are we sure? can I get these orders confirmed? Because there's a lot of innocent people around. There wasn't even a he's like, yep, no problem. And he was just like laying, it was like his best day on the job. Because he was just laying waste to like everything. And it was
freeway was collapsing.
Yeah, and then when you had him, it was like, I'll use rockets. And like, I've got him dead in my sights. I'm literally facing him. Why, I don't know, because you're in a jet. You can shoot that shit from miles away. Why have you got to go nose to nose? And then when you go nose to nose, you use a gun on him. When you got fucking missiles. I just didn't get it. And then he F's up his own plane, and that's eject. That's a shot.
Yeah,
I mean, wow. That's
that sequence on all sort of levels. It's almost like, because you're not part of this criminal mastermind thing. You're just a guy doing his job, and you've had a call, and you're happily going to shoot up the freeway. It's for no real reason.
The thing is, right? Sorry, go on, Pete.
No, I was going to say, but then it also. Can you do a side wheelie in a long lorry? I don't think you can. I'm not an expert. I don't have an HGV license, but the fact he does a side wheelie and then puts it back down. No, it's like the things. Yeah, it's the fact he's completely unkillable throughout this movie.
Yeah,
and he can turn his hand to any vehicle.
It's when they get in the chopper and he's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it."
I had flying lessons in between the movies. And like the only saving grace there, and I will come back to you, sorry, Steve. The only saving grace there is he goes, I had to, I thought you were afraid of flying. Yeah, I've had to, get over my fears, like between them. And that could have been done really well. That could have been a thing.
Yeah.
Because he was scared of flying in the first movie. But it's like, it's almost like they had a tick sheet of like, be a wise guy on a call with a baddie you haven't met yet, tick.
Yeah.
Fear of flying, tick. Oh, maiden name, tick. It's like it was a bit.
The kids, mention the kids and mention the wife, tick, tick.
Mention the son because he can come back in the fifth one. It's, So
the two things that made him go from regular to superhuman in this were one where he takes down the helicopter with a car. That was like, what? And then the one you mentioned with the freeway and the lorry and the wheelie and the whole fighter jet, because if you look at it before then, all he's doing is fairly small. He's reacting to the stuff that Tim the Olyphant's doing, and they're just playing catch up. He's not being kind of proactive or taking it to the baddie because he doesn't know where he is. And then when they find out where he is, they go in the base and they're going through all of the vents and all that kind of stuff, and they get separated. So, but up to then, what he's doing is, apart from the car and the helicopter thing, it's relatively small stuff. And even though he does seem to be invulnerable, he's just kind of running from one crisis to the next. And it's nothing like, him running out into the middle of a runway and doing that to try and stop a plane coming down, or, it takes out it. So it built and built and built, but the CGI and the action things built to the degree that you then started thinking, in Captain America Civil War, in the Winter Soldier, he takes out a Quinjet with his shield. That's basically what they did here, but with falling debris off the same thing. And I was like, I just,
Well, and I love, obviously, I also love action movies. Otherwise, what have we been doing for the last 8 years?
Why are we doing this, Pete? Why are we here? What's going on, man?
But I've never had set piece fatigue in a film before. I was like, what's he going to do now? You shouldn't feel that way. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I know someone's going to attack him. An explosion is going to get very close to him, but it won't kill him. And then he'll hang from something by one arm because he's done it 7 times already in this film.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious that the films that are based on novels, hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, based on an article. This film is like 2.25 hours long. It could easily shave 20 minutes off this film by removing some of the 400 set pieces that are in it.
I think also as well, like, to try and I'll come into my positives, but like, as much as he was invulnerable, right? Some of the henchmen were just as invulnerable.
Yeah. Because
it was like, even when you look at Maggie Q, there's a bit, so they have the sort of, they have that kind of fight and she's kicking his ass or whatever. Yeah. And then there's a bit I was just like, I had to rewind it because I couldn't believe what I'd just seen. Right. But just to recap, he drives back he gets into a car, drives back into the place, knocks her over. She doesn't jump onto the bonnet. He runs the car into her, then drives through. It feels like about 15 walls. It's probably about 3 or 4, but it felt like about 15. Then they crash through another wall into like a kind of
lift shaft,
like a lift shaft thing. She then topples down through, and then she's fine, and she's well enough to be like fighting and kicking ass and trading blows and stuff. I'm like, hang on a minute. You got run over and then you got driven through walls. I mean, come on.
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
yeah. I mean, it literally took her getting kicked off, falling about 50 foot, and then the van falling on top of her.
She was alive until then because she goes, ooh, and then it comes down to
that's it. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Just like that.
And even then, I thought maybe it's because I saw Terminator Dark Fate. I think
she's gonna.
And like, yeah, even then I wasn't sure that she wouldn't just come out and do, you know. And the other one, the French guy,
parkour guys, come on,
parkour guy,
come
right?
on.
What? Now he was in he's a very famous parkour guy because he was in a film called District 13, like a French film, which was wicked. And he was really good in that. And again, he was pretty indestructible until obviously right at the end where they pulled the Raiders on him.
Yeah.
What I couldn't understand, and maybe it was just me, it was like, so he clearly obviously was French and said everything in French. So what I didn't understand, so there's a conversation, right, where the villain's like, can you get McClane? And then I can't speak French, but then he would say something back in French and he'd go, okay, get McClane. And then he'd say something else in French. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure the way conversations go with someone in a foreign language is that you start speaking in the foreign language and then they reply in the foreign language and then you respond in the foreign language. It doesn't work when you talk in English and they talk in French because it just made no sense to me. There's even a bit at the end where he kind of says, "Go if you can kill McClane, you'll get
my share, or
you'll
something.
get whatever share."
Yeah.
And then he says something back in French, and there's no subtitle for it. I'm like, I don't even know. I'm out. I don't even know what he said. Is he gonna do it, or has he said, "Nah, fuck you, man, I'm out"? I don't know.
I do wonder, like, was he French purely because they cast someone who could do the parkour stuff? Because I think a couple of the other henchmen are French as well. Or did they just go, oh, we've done Germans, French. Because again, in that tick sheet, European, athletic, not actors you're used to seeing, like ballet dancers in the first movie. Let's have parkour people in the fourth movie. The more we talk about it, the more it does seem to be. And also, where you mentioned Terminator, how ridiculous was the Terminator figure falling on the delete key at the start for the explosion?
Yeah, in the flat. Yeah,
unless it was their big clue of like everyone in this film's a Terminator. Just want you to know that.
I mean, I thought it actually started out pretty well. To get into my positive, I thought it started out pretty well, and I was settling myself thinking, oh, okay, it's better than I remembered, because the way they'd set it up, where they were taking out all the other hackers, and then he was the last one, and then McClane gets sent just because he's in the area to sort of pick him up and stuff.
Yeah,
I thought was a really good setup. And even though, again, the criminals go from being really competent to being like Lauren Hardy incompetent, because the fact that you've got to take out one hacker dude and you've got some expert marksman up on the roof 2 miles, wherever the fuck he is, with a gun. And I was kind of like, and he's like, oh no, we'll do it ourselves. And they get the sniper out. And I was kind of like, but why would you go to all that trouble? Just knock on the guy's door and shoot him in the head.
Yeah, I think as well, like, because all the hacking stuff is obviously stuff you can do invisibly. Like, no one can see what you're up to. But then as soon as he gets away, they turn up in helicopters and start shooting assault rifles in the middle of the day. And it's like, you're covert. No, you're not really not covert at all. You're kind of drawing more attention to yourselves than you did. I don't know any other way you could draw that much attention to yourself. No. It is kind of bizarre.
But it was a great firefight. That first in the guy's house was a really good firefight, and I was kind of like, this is the sort of Die Hard I kind of want to see. Where it's a bit more kind of contained.
because he uses really ordinary things. Like when there's two guys in the corridor, he throws the fire extinguisher down to the far end, shoots it, and they just pop out the window, and you go, "Oh, that's cool!" And it's like, okay, probably not totally realistic, but he's used what's there. He hasn't kind of pulled out a massive gun off his back that wasn't there in the previous shot and shot them with it. He's just kind of cobbled together something because that's what he does in the moment. And I thought, yeah, okay, all right, I can get on with this. But it just got more and more extreme and ridiculous as it went on. But as you're saying about the guys, the parkour guy, one guy got hit by the car, bounced off, flown into the air, and hit the building. And once they're gone, he just comes jogging down the road to talk to his mate. He's like, "They got away." Yeah. I'm like, wait, you got thrown over there, you got shot and fired over there, and you're just like, "Oh, got a little bit of a cut, but I'm all right. I'm all right." I'm thinking,
really? Yeah, walk it off.
Well, yeah, walk it off. It's like, wow.
There was a lot of walking off in this film. I think there was one guy. That was the other one. It was a guy near the end where when they go into like the secret headquarters, and then a guy puts a gun on them, and then McClane somehow gets he does that move he does in all these films where he kind of grabs him, whatever, and then he basically throws him into like a chair and he kicks the chair down the stairs, which I thought that guy he's dead. The way he kind of went out, he's dead. Yep. And then he goes down and the guy's oh McClane. I was like, no.
First film, guy goes down the stairs, breaks his neck. That's
exactly.
It.
Yeah.
Guy with a machine gun, ho. That's how he does it.
Yeah. And this guy went down the stairs. He did like a 360 over them stairs. He was dead. He was dead. Or at the very least, a lot more seriously injured than he was. Yeah.
I wonder if it's just because of when it was made, maybe because other films were kind of going in that kind of direction, I suppose. Yeah. The Mission Impossible films maybe by then, and the Fast and Furious stuff I suppose had started by 2007.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe starting to, but Mission Impossible, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess maybe the superhero stuff as well. Maybe it has all just become heightened, but it's like I do miss the groundedness. What I did like as well is that because you can't. I listened to a thing with Stephen D'Souza the other day. And he was like, the trouble is, after the second film, once I wasn't involved in it, he's like, they stopped it being about a building. He needs to be in one place, a skyscraper or an airport. And I actually think you couldn't keep doing that because it's ridiculous enough that he keeps being in these situations. But if he kept being them in a building, then you've got to think there's some, there's deeper issues going on there. But so I think the third one is good. It kind of loosens it up. And this one kind of feels closer to the third one in a way. But I did like the fact that he is kind of what I like about McClane is he does things in a completely different way than anyone else would. He doesn't do it by the book. He's kind of slightly off in the way that he approaches stuff. And like I say, in the first half an hour, 40 minutes, it feels like it builds on that. And I go, oh yeah, that's the guy I know. He does these kind of things. And I actually think when I watched it the first time, I think Justin Long, who plays Farrell, was really annoying, but I actually didn't mind him watching it this time.
No,
I actually thought he was all right.
Yeah, I was the same. I actually preferred. I was rooting for him.
Yeah,
I far preferred him to McClane.
And he gets some heroic moments. He does have an arc in this. He does kind of improve on himself and like kind of, realizes the magnitude of what he's been involved in. And he wants to help. Whereas, yeah.
Right. Let's talk about some of the positives of the film. Go on, Barry.
I have to say, there's some of the one-liners that Timothy Olyphant as bad dude dropped. I actually thought landed quite well. Because a lot of times it was a couple of times he turned to the bad guy, to his kind of subordinates, and he was it was lots of like, really? Do you know what I mean? Or like, he had one job. And I think there's a bit at the end where like it's a big dude and he's got like McClane's daughter, and then she sort of headbutts him and kind of shoots him in the foot and whatever, and he kind of wrestles out and he's like, have you got her? And he's like, yeah. Are you sure?
Yeah.
So I actually thought he had some quite good moments in it. Actually, I thought he was. I mean, I don't mind, as we say in our neck of the woods, proper villains. I don't mind someone chewing scenery. That doesn't really bother me. And because I think if you're gonna do it, then do it. Then just go for it. And I thought it looked like he was having a blast doing it.
It reminded me a bit as well of like Ed Harris in The Rock, where it kind of is someone putting on putting in a really good performance, but also they can kind of explain why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, I don't think anything they did in this was justified, but like his whole thing after 9/11, his character was basically saying that there was a risk, there was this whole risk of things, and they were like, no, it's not a risk, and then they wouldn't put in the safeguards that he wanted.
Yes.
So he's kind of turned on them. But I also can imagine someone who's that intelligent. I can imagine what it's like. If I try really hard. If you're surrounded by the best people you can get, but they're still not operating at your level, how frustrating that would be. That's probably just what he's like. I wish I could do all these jobs. I wish I could be a henchman. I wish I could do all these jobs myself, because it would be so much easier, because I'm a genius. But you're all just kind of, why are you speaking French? Why? What are you doing? What? And he's like, I've got these people booked for this job. I can't change them now. I'm too committed. So he's just got to do what he can.
Because I think there was one moment where he said to he asked someone to do something and they kind of hesitated or something, and he's like, "Right, get out of the chair," and he had to, and he went and sat down and did it himself. And then when he sort of did it, he's like, "Don't ever hesitate again." I was like, you know what? I don't want to work for you, bro.
Yeah. And there's that moment where he pulls out the little weedy guy and they kill all the other ones, which I don't really get. I'm like,
I know.
It's like, at first I thought I'd misremembered and thought the weedy guy was his brother, and he's not. He's just some other hacker dude that he pulls out. But they kill all of the other ones who knew what they were doing, who were in on it, and they weren't like they'd been tricked like Justin Long's character. So I thought, so why did he kill them all? Why didn't he just, like, he didn't want to split the money with them, or he just, it wasn't really explained.
I mean, because there's greed, and there's stupid greed.
Yeah.
Because like the way they, when they kind of, I think that's the other thing, which was it's a positive and a negative in the fact that, again, it's the whole, we're doing a terrorist act, but really that's smoke and mirrors to get money. And it would have been nice if maybe they'd find, I quite liked the idea that he was a kind of disgruntled ex-employee that they'd sort of roasted, and he was coming through. I kind of liked the revenge angle. I felt that was almost enough. He didn't need to then have the money angle, unless he was almost gonna say, for me, it's not about the money, but I need to pay my crew. That would have made more sense to me.
Yeah.
But it was like they were saying he'd have America's wealth in his back pocket. He'd have billions. So for me, for someone who's got billions, to be quibbling with a couple $100,000 to kill like 5 guys who've been like working hard for you all morning without a break. I didn't see no coffees down there, no Starbucks
runs, nothing.
Nothing, no donuts, nothing. And their reward was a bullet. I thought that I felt that was a little bit harsh. And one of the reasons why, for me, in all the Die Hard films, Hans Gruber is still the best boss. Because at no point in that Die Hard film did you get a sense that he was going to double cross me. Everyone was going to get their cut when they got out.
It's Christmas, Theo. It's Temper Miracle.
Yeah.
In fairness, and his brother's not like that. His brother wasn't like that at all.
No,
third one. No.
He split all the money.
Yeah.
I do think maybe it's time for the kind of villain crew industry to be unionized off the back of some of this. Because, if you're a henchman, you're not having a very good life. If you're, on the IT side, you're seen as expendable. It doesn't seem right to me at all.
It reminds me of that character in the Manhunter comics from DC. Have you read it? So there's the newer Manhunter when it becomes a woman who used to be a lawyer, and she ends up being Manhunter. And one of the guys who works with her, who helped design the suit, we find out that he used to be a henchman, and it shows you like him working for the Joker. The Joker starts acting crazy, he just kind of backs away. And then later on, he's working for like, AIM or whoever it is, or Cobra, and they all start going a bit crazy, and he just backs away. He's got like these 4 lives he's had, where he's just kind of, every time everyone's gone a bit weird, he's like, yeah, and they're going to kill these people. Nah, I'm not up for that. And he just kind of leaves.
The thing is, though, every time a henchman checks out his LinkedIn, every time a villain checks out his LinkedIn profile, they're like, look at all the people he's worked for. He must be great.
Like, why did 6 months? Well, he killed everyone else. I was his favorite. It's like,
And also as well, there's got to have been a conversation with like, I just think no matter where you are on the henchman scale, right? At some stage, if you got to have a conversation with the boss. It's like, right, this is the plan. The plan is we're gonna hack in, but it's all gonna be smoke and mirrors. We're gonna steal America's wealth, blah blah blah. Once we get to this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna kill all the hackers that have been working for us up to that point. At that point, there's a part of me that would be like, I don't like the sound of this, because if he's willing to take out them guys, he's clearly got issues about sharing, and he's just going to be biding his time. Will it be when I'm sitting on the plane like the guys from Die Hard 2, smoking, and then suddenly the plane blows up? I'm not comfortable.
I do think as well, it made more sense if some of the people working for him did try to get out themselves, because they've seen all the other hackers that have done the work before them all be killed. Like, stage one people are killed. You are the stage crew 2 people, and you're like, oh, hang on a second, this isn't going to end well for us.
They never saw that coming, did they? For some reason,
bizarre greed, I guess.
Yeah, I thought that main hacker guy was going to get taken out at the end. So I knew he got killed, but I'd forgotten that it was McClane that kills him.
Yeah.
But you're right. I would have liked to have known why he was so special over the others.
Because I just thought he was his brother or something. But I'm thinking of another film. I can't remember what it is now. It's probably like Face Off or something, where it's his brother.
Yeah, it is. It's his brother. His brother in that he looked.
Oh, there you go. That's what I'm thinking of. They're remaking that, but let's not.
Also, the authorities in this. So, like, it's the bit where they it's a great plan. Do you know what I mean? The villain's plan is a good solid plan, but they hack in and then they set off anthrax.
Anthrax.
Yeah. Like literally 10 minutes after they've been hacked, and this is literally the screens go blank, and then they come back up and it's like, right, we need to start looking into this, and then suddenly alarms go off and it's an anthrax alert, and it takes the actual anthrax team or whatever to rock up and go, there's no anthrax, for them to go, he played us the whole time. You think? And you're supposed to be the cyber,
division.
Division. This is literally your bread and butter. For you to sort of go, hang on a minute, maybe this could be a cyber attack. Maybe they could have pretended to do this. Is there any way we can check this foot? You know what I mean? It's just,
sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say the two, were they NSA, the two guys?
Yeah.
And it's the fact that, like, so they find out who the guy is, Gabriel, that's his name. They find out it's Gabriel, and suddenly he's basically the Steven Seagal of like IT. Do you know what I mean? It's the best there is, and blah blah blah. And surely, given the fact that later on they then go, yeah, he designed that system that controls America's wealth, blah blah. But surely the minute they said his name's Gabriel, they might have gone, hang on a minute, we know he designed that big system which has got all America's wealth in it. Maybe we want to get George and IT over there just to just to check it out, just to make sure it's okay. Maybe take some backups, just to make sure it's okay. It took them all that way to then go, and if he did something, when they find out where he is, that's what he's going for. It's just like, wow.
I know what you mean, because in the other films, what I do like is there's this ensemble group of people in the background trying to work out what's going on. I think in all the films have kind of got an element of that, maybe slightly less in the first one. But what I liked in this as well, they didn't automatically not believe McClane, because that became a thing in the first three films. It's like, oh, who's this guy? He doesn't know anything, and like they got past that, which I thought was refreshing. But then, like you say, they were always one step behind, and he wasn't one step ahead by thinking it through, which I think I would have preferred it if the Justin Long's character, if Farrell, had worked it out because of the nature of what he does. At least there'd have been something, and actually he'd have been even more heroic, and actually there'd have been a way that McClane would have learned from him. Because in the other films, there's been this whole white collar, blue collar thing where the white collar people don't seem to know anything. And McClane's blue collar, he meets, a handyman or a cop, or there's someone else. And they are the people that help. Yeah, but this has almost gone, I know what we're going to do. Rather than make it blue collar, white collar, we're going to make it digital, and we're going to make it analog. And it doesn't work. And it kind of, and it's like, you've been taken down by Kevin Smith and a CB radio, but it's not the same. It's not the same as in the other films. It's kind of, if they are going to go through that tick sheet of things, one of the things that I think they should have kept in was the blue collar, white collar thing, because I think it works really well. I think it was one of the most charming things about the films in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't work because it isn't even because when you think about it, it isn't even Kevin Smith, because all he does is he sort of says, "Patch me into the FBI," and then he tells them where he is. But by the time they get there, he's done it all anyway.
Yeah.
True.
You know, what I really would have liked to have seen, I think we mentioned this last time, they could link this right back to the first film. There's two ways they could have done it, right? What they could have said is, oh, Gabriel designed this thing, there's no one better that could do this. And then the NSI guy goes, well, actually, there is someone. It's like, what? Someone who's as good as Gabriel. Really? Well, where is he? He's in prison. And they go to the cell, and it's... And not quite the Hannibal Lecter thing, but it'd just be like in a room with no computers and like just like a light, and you'd just be there like going, hello, you need my help? And it would be our man from the first one,
who I thought was like it was quite inspiring to me. Not that I wanted to go down and have a life of crime, but I think like him and I've forgotten his name.
Argyle.
Yeah, his name was Argyle, but I was trying to think of the guy from Leverage who was the hacker. From
Leverage.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
Hardison.
Hardison, yeah, and it's Theo in the first one. Theo is the hacker in Die Hard 1.
Yeah. And I'm not picking them because they're black, but it's because that I'm so used to seeing anyone in IT or in computers portrayed in a particular way, or even nerds. Do you know what I mean? Geeks were portrayed in a particular way in film, and this film just doubled down on it. Do you know what I mean? Right down to like Grandma's basement and
you
know, all the action figure digs and all that sort of stuff. And what I loved about the guy in the first Die Hard was that he was as cool and as slick as the others. And it was just that he didn't have the gun, but he had the computers. He was, you know, and without him, they couldn't have got in.
Nope.
You know, and he was calling out plays to help them when they were taking out the cops and stuff. And again, the guy in Leverage, he was a geek and a hacker, but he was quite cool as well, even in his geekiness, and I kind of quite liked that. And I quite liked. Is it just what's the actor? Is it Justin Long in this?
Yeah, in this one, yeah.
Again, like Pete, I've got first time around, I genuinely didn't like him. I remember not liking him at all. This time around, I actually really liked him, and I thought he was quite cool's the wrong way to put it, but he didn't feel like so Kevin Smith's character just felt like a caricature.
Yeah.
Whereas, and maybe part of that's because you were only in for a little bit of time, but what I liked about Justin Long's character was that it started out and you felt it was going to go that way, but then pretty quickly it didn't. And I think a lot of it was his performance, and a lot of his one-liners actually did work, because I think there's a bit where McClane sort of knocks on the door and he's trying to pretend he's someone else, and then his mates come out and say something to him, and he was like, yeah, you know, I'll see you at the Bad Timing Awards. That was he comes in, and the lines are so quick that some of them he missed, because he comes in, he's like, can I get you anything? Tea, coffee, or warrant?
And I think that it's a great way for them to bond. It's almost like not quite buddy cop territory, but it does kind of make, I think McClane goes, actually, you're a bit of a wise ass, and you're kind of, you say the wrong thing, and so there is a parallel between them. I think he kind of, he got respect for him quite early on, which I quite liked.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, again, I didn't remember it as well as I thought I did, because it was far less. I thought it was a more bullying relationship until I watched it again, and actually, it's far less of that. It felt much more buddy cop, but even in that way where it didn't have we've got to get to a point where we get on, it kind of felt they were kind of rifting pretty much from the get-go.
Well, even right at the end, like when he sort of says, he says, "Oh, he's looking at his daughter," and he's like, "No, not her. Chick sticks cars." And then she's going, "Did he ask about me?" And he's like, "Oh, for God's sake!"
Yeah.
So it's like he still doesn't like him, but his daughter's like, "Oh, hey, he's cute."
Weirdly, it's in the quieter bits where I feel he was more McClane and less one note action guy. And it was like the bit right at the end when he's in the ambulance and he goes and he sort of says, thank you for saving my daughter. And again, I'd completely forgotten that bit. And I actually thought he was just going to walk off. Well, that's a bit rude. And then he sort of comes back and he's like, "Yeah, thanks for saving my daughter." And he's like, what else was I going to do? And he goes, "And that's what makes you that guy."
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good moment.
Yeah.
That was a good moment.
And I love the way he said it back to him, having him said it to him before, wasn't it? Because he was kind of looking up to McClane when he worked out all the things that he'd done and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he said the exact line to him.
Yeah.
Before, and it's like, so yeah, that was a really good moment. And I think as well, the fact he's willing to let him, to shoot himself through the shoulder to save his daughter was a good moment as well. I think you're right. I think it's, in a way, the film suffers from making everything too big. If they just kept it a little bit more self-contained and reined back in some of the OTT stuff, then actually it could have felt more like a true Die Hard movie, I guess.
I don't think it needed so when they got his daughter and she comes in, she mouths off and like he's like, "Oh, she really is his daughter." I mean, personally, I'd say that's some stupid things you're saying because how you didn't get shot is beyond me. But it's the film, so you grow with it. But I don't think you needed to have had the forced strained relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there was no real payoff to it. Because you had that bit at the beginning, and then it was like, I don't use your name anymore. I'm not talking to you. We don't know why. We don't know what he's done other than be a bit of an arse, I'm guessing.
Yep.
But then the minute she's then in trouble, she's then dropping one line, "Oh, my dad's coming," and blah blah blah. And then I think there's a bit where she's talking to Justin Long, and she's like, "Oh, I'm Lucy McClane." And he's like, "Oh, I thought it was generic." And she's like, "Oh, not today." What? Because you're in trouble now?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And I thought it didn't. I know what they were trying to go for, but it didn't need it. It would have made more sense if it had just been he was coming to see her or whatever, and they got on fine.
Yeah.
And then she just got involved with it, and you could have still hit those same beats, and she could have still been the mouthy badass she was. But it just,
I think it's interesting that the third and fourth film were both made after Last Boy Scout, because in Last Boy Scout, he is like a down on his luck, alcoholic, kind of breaking up with his wife, has a really bad relationship with his daughter, but it makes much more sense. It's very similar. But the stuff in Last Boy Scout is miles beyond this because it's true to the film.
Yes.
And it really works. But this felt like almost like, well, let's do it a bit like that, but let's water it down a little bit. Let's make it a little bit like that, but not as spiky. And it just kind of, if you compare the two sort of sequences, they're miles apart, really. And like you said, there's no reason for it. In Last Boy Scout, there's a total reason for it, and there's a whole story arc, and it all works.
That's a great arc, that film.
Here, it's just like, well, we can't get the mum in. She's not willing to do another movie. We can't get the journalist guy. Oh, okay. But we've mentioned he's got two kids. We've only seen him once when the mum answered the phone and they happened to be at her feet. I think they were even off camera. Right, his daughter will be of a certain age now. The guy's going to be a teenager. Let's make that. But it's a better story in a way. Off the top of my head, it'd be much better if she was the hacker. If she was the hacker, there's a reason for him to be in the story, not just he happens to be picking someone up. He could have been not told to pick her up, but he went to rescue his daughter.
He didn't know it was her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could have been, go to this apartment and somebody called Spike 72 and he gets there and he opens the door and it's his daughter and it's like, "You're Spike 72? You're the hacker?" Be like, "What?" And then suddenly it's his own daughter he's got to protect. And she has to explain that she's the digital, he's the analog. That makes more sense. That he doesn't get her, he doesn't get her life, he doesn't get who she is. And now she's got to explain it to him.
Or even if Farrell was her boyfriend. There's something to bring him into the story other than yet another in the wrong place at the right time, or whichever way around, the other way around.
He had a cracking line at one point where she says something and he goes, "Whoa, you really are his daughter. It's weird hearing something that tone of voice from someone with hair," which made me laugh. That made me laugh. And a couple of other ones, I was like, yeah. Just maybe I think it was Timmy Olyphant just goes, You really are her daughter. Yeah. Because she punches that guy as well in the face. He goes, "Oh," it's like, "Are you okay?"
That's it.
And he's like, "Yeah." And it's like, "Oh, all right." Just, punched by this 80 kilogram, 75 kilogram girl, just punched this huge bloke in the face. And he's like, "Oh." But yeah. So I think they pushed the ante too far. They pushed all of the stakes too far. They upped things too much, and they just went way over the top. And they could have stripped back some of the other stuff, made it a lot more personal. And if it's about people that you care about more, which is what you get in the first two films, and to a lesser degree the third film, it works better because you're bonding with them as a person, not as this superhuman person who can throw a car at a helicopter and survive an attack by a jet.
I think the thing is that you could. I think you said this, Steve, actually, and you're right. When I kind of look back on my viewing of it, I was enjoying it, but I felt that my enjoyment waned the more it ramped up, because I felt the more it ramped up, the more his character ramped up in terms of his kind of ego, the way he talked, the way he was, like you say, dropping. Like I said, that I think the stuff with around Maggie Q and stuff like that, I was just a bit, and in the end, he stopped being McClane for me until it then quietened down again, and then I felt he was more. I'm like, okay, right, we're back in now. He's back in as McClane. Yeah. But for a lot of the sort of towards the end, and certainly the plane stuff and whatever, when he's driving in the big rig, I was just like, I don't know what I'm watching.
No, and I think in the other films, or certainly the first two, a lot of his kind of humor is it's like nervous energy. It's like it's like, I don't know what to do here, so I'm gonna say something funny because that's my way of masking that I'm actually frightened. Yeah, and it makes you really relate to him. But now it's just kind of almost like, and yeah, in fairness to him, he has been through 3 ridiculous situations already, and this one's even more ridiculous. So maybe he's just like, oh, I've got it, it's in the bag. But I just think because he is kind of impossible to kill, and he's got that bit of swagger. The swagger's it's different. It's not like the fake swagger of someone who's basically desperate to survive. It's actually the nonchalant thing of like, well, this is the 4th time, and there'll probably be a 5th one, and it'll be fine. And it's very different. I agree with you.
I always remember watching the first film, and I would like to say up front, if there's any kids listening, don't smoke, kids. It's not cool. So what I'm about to say isn't cool. I'm just going to say that. But there's a sequence in the first Die Hard where he's on the radio to Hans.
Yeah.
And he lights up a cigarette, and he's got the machine gun, and like, he's like, oh, he said, Mr. Mystery, you still here? He goes, yeah, unless you want to open up one of these doors for me. And they have this kind of banter, and he's got the cigarette, and he just looks cool as fuck. And I'd never wanted to smoke more than when I watched him light up a cigarette. He just looked cool. I can't, even now, like, I have no desire to smoke, but even now, when I watched that first Die Hard, I'm like, maybe I could just have a sneaky one, because it's like Bond in Dr. No, when you first see Sean Connery as Bond and he's smoking. I'm sorry, it just looked cool as. And there was, like I said, he was just cool. It was just something about him. He was cool. He was kind of relatable. The one-liners worked. As I said, in this one, it was almost like, and I think I listened to you guys reviewing Die Hard with a Vengeance, and I'm not sure which one of you was saying it. Might have been Pete, but it almost felt like the McClane is a performance bit, and it doesn't. That seemed to sort of, he hadn't quite got McClane down. Like he'd almost forgotten himself. Like how do I play John McClane? And I think when you watch this film, there's moments where you're like, that's McClane, and a lot of it's at the beginning.
Yeah.
And like I say, in the quiet moments, and then there's other bits where I think, thinking about the Last Boy Scout, I think you're right, Peter. I think there's other bits where it's almost like bleeding in from other action roles that he's done.
Yeah. Because I think you think the first one, he hadn't done an action film before. He'd come from like comedy shows, and so it was a new territory for him. And it's like, so in a way, his arc is a bit like, as an actor, it's the same as the character. He's like he's done so much now. He's got that kind of, but yeah, you just need him to feel more vulnerable. I think that was the key for me.
I think he was jaded. I think as in Bruce Willis was jaded. At this point, 2007, he's been in the business like 20 years as an action hero, more or less at this point, isn't it? It was something like that, 20 years on. And he's done that many films. And that it's that thing of, right, if I keep saying this, if you get to a certain point where you're not happy with it and you don't want to do it, you don't need to do it, right? Get out. Like Cameron Diaz, she's gone. She retired. She's retired from acting. She's gone. She basically, I think she got to the point where she's like, I'm not feeling it. She's made enough money that she can, live on it comfortably for the rest of her life. So she's quit. She's just quit the business and gone. And I'm like, if he's got 20 years on and he hasn't saved a few pennies, come on. He's like the worst investment accountant ever.
On the basis of the films he's doing now, he must be good at spending money. Well, he lost a lot of money on Planet Hollywood. It's like the Kevin Bacon thing. Didn't Kevin Bacon lose a load of money in a pyramid scheme? And that's why he does all the phone adverts.
Really?
Yeah.
But it's the thing of, if you're just not doing it and you don't want to do it, go and do something else.
Which is why I always get suckered back into films where, we feel like the franchise is over, and then they come back, and then you listen to interviews, and they kind of go, I'd said I wouldn't go back, but I got the script, and it was the right script, and blah blah blah, and without fail, I get suckered in, because I always think the same thing. Clearly they've got cash; they don't need to do it. So obviously it must be a script. This is obviously going to be great. And then I see the film and I go, "You bastards, you did me again."
You cashed in. You wanted a quick buck.
Yeah.
You're like, bit of money. Yeah, right. I'll turn up for that. I don't know. I just think you're right. I think there are moments where the director, on the right day, always in the right mood, and Bruce Willis played it right. And there are other moments where he was just like, can't be arsed, and it just showed, and it just came off as really, really off than what we'd seen in the past, which is a shame, which is a real shame.
It was weird watching a Die Hard film where I didn't want to be McClane.
Yeah.
That's really it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm also not a big fan of swinging by one arm while people fire missiles at me, to be honest. That's another factor.
Well, that's by the by, Pete,
That bit where he takes out the well, a lot of it is the pilot taking out his own plane, but but the bit where I'm trying to remember now, he jumps off the back of the plane, and then literally slides down a road,
the freeway,
slides down the freeway for it looks again like a mile whilst it's exploding, and he's got part of the shirt which was ripped anyway. I'm thinking like, you've got no skin left, mate.
It's worse. Earlier than that, they had all of the pipe that somehow all of the gas was pumped back into that building, and they ran down, got in a van, and the van got blown across, and fireballs everywhere. And they're just like, "Yeah, are you all right? Yeah, I'm all right. Right, let's go." I'm like,
and then just there's a bit where when they get to the secret base or whatever it was, and Justin Long falls down. I don't know. Suddenly it was like he was in Hoth or somewhere. I don't know. Or not Hoth, the chamber where they freeze Han Solo, in the Cloud City, and he sort of it's like he falls about 40 foot, and he kind of lands, and he's like, oh, and then that's when he's up, and he's like, kicking through things to like crawl. I'm like, wow, everyone in this film is indestructible.
It definitely upped things and just got a bit crazy. Right. Anything else we want to talk about, or do you want to give it some scores?
I was going to say, I did like the bit where they turned the lights off in the tunnel, having opened both sides of the tunnel. I thought that was...
Oh, that was nasty.
Nasty. But then it got ludicrous. But if it hadn't been ludicrous, it was actually it was a good setup.
Yeah.
Yeah. His own men were kind of uncomfortable with that. They were like, really? You really want to do that? He's like, yeah, open both sides. That was nasty, though.
I think that's the point where you should be sort of thinking, I don't think I'm going to get paid. Do you know what I mean?
You'd be like, I'm just going to go to the loo. Oh, okay. And then...
Yeah. I'm just going to pop to Starbucks. Anyone want anything?
You want a round? I'll get you
want a donut, don't you, Phil?
Is that thing, Barry, you'd say, like, I'd walk past one of my mates and be like, if you're not in the car in 30 seconds, I'm leaving.
Yeah, Joey, yeah.
And it's like 29, 30. Sorry. Gone.
Yeah.
Where?
I'm gone,
Oh,
yeah.
30 seconds. You've gone.
To be fair, in that situation, I'm just getting up and going. They're just going to cut to my chair, go, where's Barry?
Because your chair's just...
He won't get, he's an idiot. He won't get his share. Yeah, I will. So I'd already transferred to an offshore account before I tipped the fuck out of Dodge.
It's true. It's true. You'd just be like, you'd have a backup, surely. You'd do something so that if you don't check your email every hour, something gets sent. You'd totally do that if you're a hacker. You'd be like, you have some kind of setup where if I don't check this thing every hour, it all goes public and then the FBI find out and blah, blah, blah. And they all walked in like lambs to the slaughter.
I'd love to see it, either a film or a TV show where it's from the point of henchmen. And each week it's a different set of henchmen in a different situation, and then just like, and it's basically that kind of like you say, like blue collar worker type thing, and it's just them having to deal with stuff and like dealing with like shitty masterminds, or like, why have you always got to come to a volcano hideout? Why are we? Do you know what I mean? Why are we here? Type thing. I would pay good money.
Like, I've rent this lovely office space. No, I found this really dark bunker somewhere under a nuclear silo. Yeah, but the Wi-Fi is rubbish down there. How about we just have this nice office space, really good Wi-Fi signal, great for taking hacking? No.
The closest we ever got was Austin Powers. That scene where they take out some random henchman and then it shifts to like the birthday party with Rob Lowe and stuff, and it's like, he'll be here any minute. No one ever thinks about what happened to henchmen's families. That was just quality. A whole show like that. Yeah.
All right, let's give it some scores. Who's going to go first?
Guests go first. Shall we say guests go first?
Right. All right. Shall we say guests go first? Okay.
No half bags, remember?
Ah.
That's it. That's the harsh reality.
I have to go 2 then, because I think 3 feels a shade too high for me.
Fair enough.
Thing is so hard.
But now I'm kind of thinking back over it, and there was stuff in there that I actually did enjoy, and I really liked Justin Long in it. I'm trying to look at it more as his film, and like John McClane
was a ghost all along.
Yeah, he was a ghost all along. Yeah, I'm gonna go 3. I'm gonna go 3.
Okay, all right, Pete, go on.
Well, let's think. So the first 2 I gave a 5.
The
third one I gave a 3, and I've been wrestling with a very similar decision. I do I round down? Do I round up? I can't just compare it to other Die Hard movies. I'll just compare it to, I guess, action movies in general. Yeah. And I think there's enough in there that I did like. Although we've talked a lot about the ridiculous ludicrousness. Yeah, that's probably not a word. But I feel like the start, I thought the ending was strong. I think there was a good film in there somewhere trying to get out. I like the villain. I like the setup. I like the premise. So I'm going to give it, it's going to scrape a 3 from me.
Okay. Yeah, I've only seen this once before I watched it again this week. And like you, I came in at the beginning thinking, I did a bad memory of it from that first time. I just think, oh, that's ridiculous. And I sat down the first sort of half an hour, I thought, oh, this is all right. I'm quite enjoying this. And then we got some of the over the top moments and some of the uncomfortable racist stuff. And then it's just like, and it just, but there again, as a whole, thinking about it as an action film, it was fun. It was too long and there were problems with it. But I think as a whole, I think it was good. So I'm rounding up as well. I'm going to give it a solid 3. But from what I've heard, the 5th one, which neither of us have seen, which will be interesting, apparently the 5th one is appalling.
We have Bruce Willis as a special guest next month.
So I've not seen the 5th one either.
Oh, right. Okay.
I watched a trailer for it many years ago.
Yes.
And then weirdly, I sat and after I finished this and it kind of popped up, I thought I played the trailer for it. It's on Star, or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a trailer so much as like a clip from the film. And I thought, oof.
Oof. That episode.
I was like, I don't know. I might have to come back for it. I don't know.
All right.
Because the other guy was his son.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, okay. How's that work timeline wise? I was okay. And his son's like a spy.
Well, this is it. So, that'll be us next month, and that'll be us in April. We'll be talking about Die Hard 5. I don't even know what it's called other than Die Hard 5. Probably has a name, but I don't know. We'll get to that.
Is it a good day to Die Hard? Is that?
I think it is.
Is it?
Or have I just made that up?
No, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Maybe Die Harderist or something.
Oh no, yeah, a good day to Die Hard.
There you go. That's what we'll be doing in April. So Barry, thanks for coming on and joining us. Always
no worries.
And get in touch with us all the usual ways, email or on Facebook, and leave us an iTunes review and all of that jazz. And what do you think of Die Hard 4? Let us know. Pete, do you want to wrap us up?
Thank you for watching and or listening, if indeed you still are.
Good night.
Good night.
Night all.